Hey everybody, today we're in the 6th week of our series on the Gospel of Mark, and let me remind you before we get started to check out the podcast, the full-length podcast below this video at PursueGOD.org. That's where you can get the most out of these resources. Today I'm just going to give you a quick little summary of where we're going in this passage of Scripture, but that podcast below is going to give you so much more, so make sure to take a quick listen to it. Today we're going to look at a day in the life of Jesus. We're looking at chapter 1, verses 29 through 39, and take a look at how busy the day was for Jesus. It says this, starting in verse 29, Jesus left the synagogue with James and John, and they went to Simon and Andrew's home. Remember, Simon is Peter. Peter's mother-in-law was sick in bed with a high fever, so they told Jesus about her right away. He went to her bedside, took her by the hand, and helped her sit up, and then the fever left her, and she prepared a meal for them. Now, this is a quick glimpse at what is happening behind closed doors for Jesus in his life. And we see how compassionate he is for Peter's mother-in-law. But then his day gets even busier into the evening. It says that evening after sunset, many sick and demon-possessed people were brought to Jesus. So apparently he's still there in the home, but the whole town gathered at the door to watch. And it says that Jesus healed many people who were sick with various diseases, and he cast out many demons. Now, what I want you to pay attention to here in this passage is how Jesus showed real concern and compassion for people. He was a busy guy from the afternoon into the evening, and his busyness, though, really shows us that he cares about people. He's not like one of these self-important celebrities who doesn't have time for people. Maybe you have heard of people like that. Maybe you know people like that. That's not Jesus. Jesus shows real concern and compassion for people. And really, in essence, he wears himself out serving the people. And as we read on, we can peel back the layer to understand where this compassion and this sense of purpose really comes from. Verse 35, before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up and went out to an isolated place to pray. Here's what I think we can take from this passage, and this especially applies to those of you who feel like you do a lot of work for Jesus, that you're all about doing. Maybe your relationship with God boils down to this doing. But notice, before Jesus does anything, early in the morning, he's connecting with his Father. See, what I think this means to us is we should be more concerned about being than doing. God doesn't care so much about our actions and our service toward him if it's not rooted in relationship with him. Jesus had relationship with the Father early in the morning. He actually took the time out of his busy day early in the morning to spend quality time with God the Father first. And out of that place of connection, he had compassion and energy for the rest of the day. And it's interesting because it says that later Simon and the others went out to find him. And when they found him, they said, everyone is looking for you. So see, even Peter and the other disciples are trying to get Jesus to do. They had a busy day ahead of them. But Jesus starts with prayer and connection and spiritual disciplines because that's the source of everything that he does in his ministry life. And then this whole section ends with these powerful words that show us the real priority of Jesus. Verse 38 and 39, it says, Jesus replied, we must go on to the other towns as well, and I will preach to them too. That is why I came. So he traveled throughout the region of Galilee, preaching in the synagogues and casting out demons. See, here's what Jesus understood. Right at the beginning of this section, we saw Jesus doing ministry, real ministry. You might call it social work out in the world. But by the end of this passage, we realize what Jesus really cares about. And he really cares about the good news. He really cares about sharing the message with the people. See, Jesus understood that the deepest need of the people, their deepest need wasn't physical. Their deepest need was spiritual. And it's a good lesson for us in our churches as we go out there and do ministry for Jesus, that we shouldn't just be meeting the temporary physical needs of the people out in the world. It's important, but it's not ultimate. The ultimate thing, the reason that Jesus came, the reason that we should go out into the world as Christians, is to meet the spiritual needs of the world around us. It's to share the good news of Jesus. That was the main priority in a day in the life of Jesus, and it should be our priority as well.